You're in your 20s, playing video games, watching anime, and having a good time. The problem is, most 20-year-olds don't realize that this is one of the most important decades of their lives when it comes to their finances. This is where it's substantially easier to start building wealth and breaking bad habits. So whether you want to retire early or buy your dream house, dream car, what you do right now with your money will determine how soon, or if you'll ever, hit those goals. So in this video, we'll go over some major money milestones, or as gamers, we'll call them achievements, you should unlock in your 20s. Starting with achievement number 1, and I know it's obvious, get a job. During every single one of my live streams, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 6 p.m. Pacific, more info below, people constantly ask me, how do I make money? Unfortunately, there's no magical online business you can start today that's going to magically make you money tomorrow. In other words, this is not the time to start a business. It's the time to get a steady paycheck, putting some of that money to work, and building good habits. Now, the reason for this is because businesses have a high failure rate, and they don't guarantee income. So I'd rather you get a regular job with a steady paycheck and start building a foundation. I was 17 years old when I got my first job at Marie Callender's Bussin' Tables. The job sucked, obviously. It was far from glamorous, but I made a lot of friends, learned quite a bit, and I got paid every 2 weeks. Spoiler alert, I was terrible with my money back then, and I wish I can go back and follow videos like this. So if you have no experience, it's fine. Get whatever job you can get, retail, fast food, warehouse, doesn't matter. And don't worry, this is just temporary. Now, money is great. We all need it, but unfortunately, most of us have a terrible mindset when it comes to it, which is why I highly recommend all of you read a book called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. You can even borrow it online for free through your local library. Most people think, and I was one of them, that since money can buy cars, jewelries, and other material possessions, that'll result in long-term happiness. This is actually false. And let me quote a small part of that book I just mentioned. The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. I'm gonna rewatch Jujutsu Kaisen and try to rank up in Marvel Rivals or maybe some Valorant. Or maybe I'll make progress on my massive library of Steam games that I haven't played yet. Oh, never mind. There's a Steam sale going on right now. Okay, last point I want to make is for people who have already started their careers. Your achievement should be to increase your income, which will accelerate how fast you reach your goals. You can do this by getting promotions, job hopping, negotiating salaries, and learning high-value skills. For example, my first job out of college, I begged my boss to let me work on projects where I could learn Python and other engineering skills. This experience helped me skyrocket my salary through various promotions and job hopping. And just to give you a reference, before I quit my job at Amazon, I was making about $230,000 per year. And speaking of quitting, this is the time to start a side business while you're in your career. Earlier, I said to avoid it, but that only applied to people who haven't started their careers yet. Now, let's be honest, most people have to work a job they don't really like and would likely be happier if they had a choice, remember the quote from the book earlier, to work on something more fulfilling. For example, years ago, I started a content creation business on the side while I was working my career, and it eventually became my full-time job, and it is much more fulfilling. Cool, so having an income is great, but even then, some people still live paycheck to paycheck despite earning a high salary, which is why it's more important than ever to unlock achievement number 2, building a money plan. Now, I know what you're thinking. You need a budget. But traditional budgets where you create a complex spreadsheet with 30 different spending categories, then you put a restriction on every single one of those categories, does not work for most people. This is because they're too rigid and complex. And as humans, we like simple. A better and more simple strategy is paying yourself first and spending the rest. Here's how that works. Open up a spreadsheet and list out all of your essential monthly expenses like housing, transportation, groceries, and debt payments. No video games, battle passes, or manga, just the essentials. Add them all up and subtract it from your monthly income. If there's money left over, awesome, let's use that to pay ourselves. If not, it's time to start cutting expenses and increasing your income. Now, in terms of how much you should save, aim for whatever's most comfortable for you. 20% is a good starting point. If you can't do 20, do 15, 10, 5, anything. If you're living at home with minimal expenses, I highly recommend saving 50% or more of your income. We'll talk more about this later, and you're gonna thank me for this. The most important part about saving money is automating it. We don't wanna rely on motivation or willpower. We need systems in place for our money. That means get direct deposit set up through your employer so it's automatically sending money to your checking and savings account. Everything in your checking account will be used for monthly expenses, and everything in your savings will be used for a few things we'll talk about in a bit. The next piece piece of automation I want you to do is tracking your spending. You're more than welcome to do this manually in a spreadsheet, but it's a pain in the ass, and I'd rather you do something fun like play video games. My wife and I use a money management app where we connect our bank accounts, credit cards, investments, and have it automatically track everything, including our net worth. Then once a month, we look at our spending to see if there are any anomalies. But overall, we like to keep it simple with the pay yourself first strategy. So decide on how much you want to save and spend the rest. I'll put a link to the app we use below. I highly recommend it, especially if you have a partner. Now, the best plans account for one thing: the unexpected. Like when you fight a new boss for the first time in a video game, you have no idea what they're going to throw at you, literally. If you've played Sekiro, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I won't spoil things though. The last thing we want happening is going into credit card debt over unexpected car repairs or medical expenses, because plenty of people are stuck in this trap and may never escape, which is why we need to unlock this next achievement: the emergency fund. The average cost of an unexpected or emergency expense is between $1,000 and $2,000. So let's start small and save $2,000 in a high yield savings account, not a regular one. Most of the big banks people use are kind of like the default gear in an RPG. They're trash. A high yield savings is just like a regular savings, but with a massive buff that pays you passive income every single month. For example, if we have $10,000 in a Bank of America, Chase, or Wells Fargo savings account, we'll only earn about $1 after a year, or 8 cents per month. As of March 2025, many high-yield savings accounts will pay $380 after 1 year, or $31 per month. It's kind of like earning runes in Elden Ring from just standing around. Runes are basically XP points you use to like level up and buy stuff. And if you haven't played Elden Ring, you gotta play it. Anyway, I linked the bank I use down below, which can get you up to a $300 bonus. And yes, you can use that to buy Elden Ring. So after you save your first $2,000 and you have no non-mortgage debt, let's continue building up that emergency fund so you have at least 6 months worth of expenses saved. And you should know exactly how much that is because we calculated it in the last achievement. So take your monthly expenses and multiply it by 6. Now, if you're self-employed, I recommend 6 to 12 months worth of expenses. Trust me, it's gonna feel better than beating an Elden Ring boss. But seriously, have you not played Elden Ring? Let me know in the comments if not, and who knows? Maybe I'll buy it for you. The last thing to note about the high yield savings is that it's the perfect place to keep cash for short-term goals. For example, a down payment for a car, house, birthday gifts, Elden Ring. This next achievement we need to unlock will not only allow us to build a tremendous amount of wealth, but will also give us peace of mind. In the last achievement I mentioned, meaning credit card debt, auto, student, or personal loans, let's focus on paying them off. The reason why we want to do this before we start investing is because certain types of debt will cost you more money to keep around compared to how much you can typically earn from the stock market. For example, the average credit card interest rate is 25%. Meanwhile, the stock market's annual average return over the last 30 years is around 10%. So keeping that debt around and investing your money instead will actually cost you more money in the long run. Now, the order in which you pay off your debt matters here. If you want to save money and time, consider making minimum payments on all of your debt first, then throwing any extra cash you have at the highest interest rate first. Once that debt is paid off, move down to the next highest interest rate. This is called the avalanche method. However, if you lack discipline, consider using the snowball method, which has you do the same, but you want to focus on the smallest balance first as opposed to the highest interest rate. Now, both of these are completely valid strategies. I would choose the one that you think you will commit to long term. So that's really all that matters. Now, keep in mind, during this process, you'll likely be paying interest on your debt. Another strategy you can employ, at least for credit cards, is a balance transfer. This is where you transfer your existing credit card debt to a special balance transfer card. These typically come with up to 18 months of zero interest. So while you pay off your card, you can avoid paying the costly interest that credit cards come with. One final strategy you can use is called debt consolidation. Imagine you have credit card debt, auto loans, student loans. You can take out a special loan to pay off all of it, and now you have a single person, a single bank that you're paying the debt to, ideally at a lower interest rate. We won't deep dive on this topic now, but if you're considering any of the two last strategies, make sure you understand at least two things. How long will it take you to pay off the debt? And how much money will you save on interest? It's purely a numbers game. Now, is there an exception to only making minimum payments on your debt and investing the money elsewhere for a higher return? Yes, but first a word from our sponsor, Elden Ring. In the lands between, you must, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. According to Fidelity, if the debt is less than 6% APR, there's a good chance you'll make more money from investing your extra cash in the stock market, as we learned earlier when I showed you the average returns. There is one caveat to this though. If the debt is stressing you out, which is normal, right? Debt can be quite emotional for people. Focus on paying it off because peace of mind is priceless, just like Elden Ring. All right, this next achievement is by far my favorite, and if you don't unlock this one early, it'll become more and more difficult to build wealth, meaning the longer you'll have to work to retire. We are talking about investing. When I was growing up, my mom would always tell me to save money. She'd say things like, turn off the lights, turn off the AC, turn off the water when you're scrubbing your hands with soap. First off, these are not good ways to save money, but besides the point, saving money is not how you build wealth. That's where investing comes into play. Imagine you're running around in Elden Ring, killing a bunch of enemies, and earning runes. If you only save your runes, you'll never level up and be stronger. Sure, you can use runes to buy gear from merchants, but even then, you need to be a certain level to use that gear. If we invest those runes to level up, we can increase our stats, equip better gear, and f up some bosses. To put that in real life terms, let's say you save $500 per month in a bank account for 40 years. That'll only yield you $240,000, making it nearly impossible to retire. If we look at Vanguard's How America Saves report, we can see that people currently in their 60s have around this much money in their retirement accounts. If we invest the same $500 per month into the stock market, we'd have around $1.2 million. The difference is staggering, and there's even a way to avoid paying taxes on this entire balance, which we'll talk about in a bit. But what if we delay investing by just 10 years? We're young, let's enjoy life now, and we'll get into that investing shit later. Get out of here. In this scenario, you'll miss out on over $500,000, which is why we want to unlock this achievement as early as possible, and we want to consistently invest no matter what. I say this because the media loves to create chaos because it gets clicks, and that's what makes money. So let's keep it simple. Step 1, open an investment account. A moment ago, I said we can avoid paying taxes on your investment returns, which you can do with a Roth IRA. If you're in Canada, it's a TFSA. If you're in the UK, it's an ISA. The way a Roth IRA works is you contribute money that you already pay taxes on. For example, money from a paycheck, and you invest that money in the stock market. Your money grows over time, like I showed earlier, and all the profits you make, doesn't matter if it's 1 million, 10 million, 50 million, are 100% tax-free at age 59 and a half. But if you try withdrawing any of your profits or gains before this age, you're gonna get hit with a 10% early withdrawal penalty. Now, the cool thing about this account is you can withdraw the money you contributed because you already paid taxes on it. I'm not saying you should do this, but it's nice to have that flexibility. Another popular retirement account that I'm sure most of you have heard of is a 401k. The thing is, these accounts are only offered through employers or if you're self-employed. The main difference between a Roth IRA and 401k is the money in your 401k is taxed as you withdraw it in retirement. One of the benefits, though, is you pay less in taxes during the year you contribute. Many employers also offer a Roth 401k, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a Roth IRA version of a 401k. And speaking of opposites, there's also a traditional IRA, which is similar to the traditional 401k. I know, sounds confusing, and we'll deep dive into this in another video, but for now, let's keep it simple. If you're young, choose the Roth 401k if your employer offers what's called a matching benefit, which is basically free money. You'll have to talk to your HR department to learn more about this. If they do offer it, only contribute enough money to get that full match. We want to get all the free money that your employer is willing to give us. Next, or if they don't offer a match, open a Roth IRA. I have a link to the one I use down below, and you can get around 25 bucks in free stocks. Also, yes, you can have a 401k and Roth IRA at the same time, and you can max out both accounts. Once your account is open, connect your bank account and set up a monthly automated investment. Don't invest manually, let a computer do it for us because we're lazy and we want to remove emotions from the equation. In terms of what to invest in, a simple low-cost index fund. This means you're not investing in a single company, you're investing in hundreds or even thousands of them with a few simple mouse clicks. For example, this could be in S&P 500 or NASDAQ fund, whatever you'd like, as long as it's diversified and low cost. And by low cost, I mean the fees, not the actual price of the investment. If you want to see my stock portfolio, there should be a link down below. The reason why we want to avoid investing in individual stocks is because even the majority of financial professionals are trash at picking and making money from them. In other words, most of them can't even beat the S&P 500, which is a mix of the top 500 companies here in the US. So TLDR, invest in index funds and you'll do better than most people. When it comes to how much you should invest, it depends. But if you want to retire early, use a FIRE calculator to determine how much you should contribute. That was a lot, so let's recap really quick. Number 1, take advantage of your 401k match through your employer if you haven't. Open a Roth IRA and set up a monthly automated investment into index funds. And keep investing no matter what. And don't touch the money until you retire. I swear, guys, if you just follow these rules, you're going to be more successful than financial professionals, the majority of them. It's nuts. People get so confused because it's so simple, they think there was more to it. There's not. That's it. If only Elden Ring was that simple. All right, we are on the last achievement. I think on PlayStation, they call this the Platinum Trophy, right? Failing to unlock this one could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars throughout your life. We're talking about building credit. Let's say you're building a professional esports team for Valorant, Counter-Strike, Elden Ring? So you make an announcement and people start submitting their application. But before you hire someone, you want to make sure you do some research, right? What's their track record, rank, how many games have they won? Are they nice? Do they know how to teabag? If all of these metrics look good, you hire them. Now, there are lots of esports teams out there, right? Some pay well, others don't. If you have an amazing track record, your chances of joining a high-paying team are higher. This is how credit works, but it's not about being good at video games. It's more about how good you are at paying back debt. Having a good credit score means you're making on-time payments, avoiding maxing out your credit cards, and your age of credit. But instead of being qualified for a high-paying esports team, a good credit score can get you a lower interest rate on loans. For example, let's say you borrow $500,000 to buy a house at a 5% interest rate. After 30 years, this loan will cost you over $460,000 in interest alone. This is separate from the money you have to pay back. And that's not even the bad part. Let's say your credit is bad and you qualify for a 7% rate. I mean, it's only 2% more. How bad could it be? The difference is $230,000 more. That's how much an impact your credit has on borrowing money. And it's the same for cars. The easiest way to start building credit is with a starter credit card. A couple of good ones out there. Discover has one and Capital One. Now, you may have heard bad things about credit cards, specifically from people like Dave Ramsey. The truth is they could either benefit or destroy you. It's all about how disciplined you are. If you choose to go down this path, you have to follow 3 rules carefully. Rule number 1, if you don't have the money to pay for the transaction in cash, you do not use credit, period. Rule number 2, set up auto pay so your balance is paid off in full every single month. No exceptions, guys. And rule number 3, do not obsess over credit cards or credit scores because they will not make you rich. Once you hit a 750 credit score, you're good. Move on. If you follow these rules carefully, you will build credit. It's that simple. All right, I have one more hidden money achievement for y'all, but first, let me say this. If you can unlock all of the money achievements I mentioned earlier, you will have reached the highest rank for your finances. And not only will you be ahead of the average person, but you'll have one less thing to worry about in life. The final money achievement to strive for is donating to charity, which is exactly what we did every time we died in Elden Ring. Enjoy.